we're in the Far East, Lana.
I know. Welcome to my new apartment.
It's very nice. I'm sorry, we got you on laundry day.
You did. Those are my types.
And we can talk about more of that later.
We can.
But let's talk about season 2 of Once Upon a Time. Here we are, midway through. How's it going?
It's fantastic. It's been a ride, a serious ride. So much is happening and will continue to happen, and so much has happened. And I love it. It's been fun.
It's a big show, though, isn't it? When you think about sort of the scale of the sets, the special effects, even the sort of the size of the cast and special guest stars. Tell us about working on something as big as this, with all of that tied in.
It's loads of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of hours. We have an incredible crew. We have 2 crews, so it is a big show. I mean, sometimes we forget because we're kind of in the Vancouver bubble, and when you're in the bubble, you're in the bubble. But I know that it's doing really well. I know that it's a big show out there. I'm grateful for that. But there's a lot to keep track of.
And what do you think it is about the show that has made it so successful? Taking the idea of sort of fairy tales and story time and mixing them in. What is making this show so successful?
I think the characters. I think the stories, the connections, all the family connections now, and I think the action. I mean, it kind of hits every genre out there. And then there's the obvious fairy tale characters. Everyone loves fairy tales, and everyone loves these characters. From stories that they had read when they were younger, movies that they had seen Disney do, and now we've brought these characters to life in a very different way. So I think that's why people love them.
And you talk about family, and season 2 has a big sort of family slide on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's very incestuous at this point. It's like I literally had to draw a family tree to kind of keep track of everything.
Now, is it sort of like split personality too? Because you're doubling up on characters. Is that twice the work? How does that compare to other roles in shows you've worked on in the past?
Well, there's definitely nothing linear about this. It is all over the place, but it's fun in the sense that I'm playing multiple characters. It is challenging, but it's refreshing because you don't get bored. And in television, you can easily get bored playing the same character year after year after year. And on this show, we are given opportunities to play all different levels of emotion, different looks, different times, different realms, modern day, fairy tale land. It keeps it interesting from an artistic standpoint, and I think it keeps the audience interested to see where we're going to go next.
And let's talk about you and your character, because the Evil Queen and Regina. Any bits of you, similarities that compare to any of these characters, or are you just completely different from these women?
I am a saint. I am sure I bleed in somehow, because how could I not? I am temperamental. Not dangerous, but I'm Puerto Rican and Sicilian. I mean, I'm hot-blooded. So is the Queen? Absolutely. There's a lot of places I can pull from.
Now, you've got some special guest stars as well this season, and there's a Downton Abbey connection, isn't there?
Yes, Leslie Nichols.
Is she working with your character?
I do have a scene with her. I've hung out with her a few times, but I wasn't in scenes with her. I'm in one scene with her.
With the lovely Mrs. Patmore. Now, let's talk about the fact that there's a lot of costumes in this show, and you get to wear some pretty great outfits. Do you enjoy that? Is it a little more fun than the conventional wardrobe department?
Absolutely. It's a ton of fun. And I love when I see the Evil Queen in a script, because sometimes especially the second season, I haven't played the Evil Queen as much. I'm always the Evil Queen, but I'm more in Regina and Storybrooke. And I'm always looking forward to seeing what the next outfit's going to be, and going in there and watching Eduardo Castro sketch these gowns, one after another. It's It's a beautiful experience on every level. It's hard to breathe in them. It's hard to walk, but a ton of fun, and you look fantastic. So it's dress up every day.
Does Eduardo ever give you any input? Do you ever have any sort of creative say on how they're produced?
I have more creative say on hair and makeup. I really trust my costume designer, so I don't. I think there was one dress I asked if we can put lace on the sleeve, and that was it. That was the only input I had. But I've had no complaints. I've loved everything that they've made, and I love. What I do love is the hair and makeup process, because so much of it. I mean, the costumes are amazing, but so much happens here, and. Depending on where we are in the story, back in Fairy Tale Land leading up to the curse, I always try to give her more of a crazed look. Her hair is a little more kind of teased and all over the place, and her eyes are a bit more dramatic. And that was intentional, and that was something that I came up with.
And does that process help with your characterization? There are some actors that say you get behind the mask and it really helps get you into the character and takes you in. Is that similar for you as well?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Because, the best example I can use, and unfortunately I haven't been able to play the old hag as much, but the old hag was very short-lived in the first season. And I had done all this work on her prior, kind of accent I wanted to give her, her body and how she walked and how she sounded. And then I put the prosthetics on. And it did so much for me. But I had to have all the inner work that I did, and then just putting on the costume just really kind of, it just all came together.
And how much, from looking back at like Disney fairy tales and stuff, how much of that sort of research-wise did you look at and go, okay, and do you base any of your character on those original, that are so sort of ingrained in our heads from childhood?
No, not really. I watched The Evil Queen in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs a few times, but I didn't really take anything from her. In fact, if any character, I found inspiration from Ursula and Cruella de Vil. Because those two characters are really big and bodacious and loud and fun and funny, and I wanted to give the Evil Queen, our version of the Evil Queen, a bit of that. So I pulled from them, but I pulled from a lot of people, and they've also just used my imagination quite a bit.
And a lot of special effects, a lot of green screen. Again, not always used in the making of television dramas. It tends to be, we think, more for motion picture film. So how is it working on a television production that has you working on a lot of green screen, and is it an added challenge for you as an actor?
It was in the beginning. Working on the green stage was quite challenging in the early stages, because if you're not doing like a really big scene with fireballs, flying across the room, creating an intimate sort of ambiance and environment on a big stage was challenging for me, and I learned how to do that in the second episode when the Evil Queen rips her father's heart out.
As you do.
I mean, I know. Why? Why would you? But she, what I found is that moment was a very intimate moment, and yet we were very exposed on this huge stage with a lot of people, and I had to literally build walls and use my imagination to kind of create a smaller box that we felt a little more safe and contained in to have that intimate, vulnerable moment. But what I find is when we were doing bigger scenes, it's like theater. And you really can take up the space, and you can really project and use your voice and fill the room, and it's loads of fun.
Now, you mentioned earlier the Vancouver bubble, and the show is shot up here in Vancouver. Is that nicer in a way? Is it nice to not be in LA and Hollywood and be around all of that? You're sort of up here isolated. What's it like working up in this very pretty but often wet and cold city?
It's a beautiful city, and I couldn't imagine the show being filmed anywhere else, honestly, with the exterior, forest and the ocean and everything. I mean, it's quite beautiful. But it does get dreary, and it's dark. It suits the show for those, enchanted forest, dark, evil queen moments. But it's challenging, I have to admit. It is challenging. Mostly because I miss my friends and my family, and I miss the sun. I do miss the sun. It's out today, and I opened the door from stage 5, and I was like, what is that thing? What is that doing here? We're covered with clouds, and it does make it challenging. But I do miss. I'm a city girl. I mean, I love nature, but I'm a city girl, and I miss the busyness of the city.
So do you commute home a lot, or when you come up here, you set up camp and this becomes home whilst you're shooting?
It's a combination of both. I'm mostly up here, and partially because I have animals and stuff up here, and I like to work. I do, and there aren't many distractions. So I find that I get to really invest a lot more time into my work by staying up here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting with us.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you.
you.
All right.